Hi there, it's Jermaine from LiveWellZone.com. I am an integrative nutrition health coach and a yoga teacher who helps women to balance their hormones naturally. And in today's video, we are going to be looking at one of my favorite topics, which is herbs. More specifically, we're going to talk about adaptogenic herbs. Now, this is actually going to be a two-part video. So what I'm going to do is in this first part, I am going to present what adaptogens are, the effects of stress in the body, and some of the benefits that you can get from using adaptogens when you're trying to balance your hormones. And then in the second video, what we're going to do is actually dive into some specific adaptogenic herbs that you can use, as well as how to use them correctly and safely. All right, so let's get right to it. So adaptogens, what are they? So these are basically a set of berries and mushrooms, as well as roots that help the body to adapt to stress, hence the name adaptogens. Let's talk a little bit about stress and what it really is in terms of how your body sees and handles it. So there are actually three types of stress. So we have emotional, chemical, as well as physical stress. Now, emotional stress, we are all familiar with that. We all lead very busy lives. We maybe have a lot of responsibilities. We're trying to juggle family and a job, maybe try to take care of your finances and so on and so forth. The more of those things you have, especially if they are maybe in a sort of chaotic state or you're just very busy, that will add to your emotional stress. So that's one type of stress that your body always experiences. And then we have number two, which is chemical stress. Now this one is very pervasive and invasive nowadays because our environment and everything we're exposed to every day has a certain amount of toxins in it. So chemical stress can come from just about every source that's sort of external to us. So we have things like viruses and fungi and bacteria. Those add to chemical stress. Then we have chemicals that could be in cosmetics and body care products, our shampoos, all those types of things. Those also add to our chemical stress. And then of course there's the big one, there is our food. So the most obvious ones are pesticides and herbicides, but we also have just plain old unhealthy ingredients. So here I'm talking about refined sugars like high fructose corn syrup, or even just any old refined cane sugar. You also have any sort of processed carbs and hydrogenated fats, and then you have additives and preservatives and dyes that are added to foods. All of those things add to your toxic load, and so they add to your overall chemical stress. And then number three is physical stress. Now this one can be as basic as, let's say, having a cramp in your neck, for example, because maybe you didn't sleep very well the night before, or maybe you have a misalignment in your spine that needs to be corrected. Anything that's more on the physical level, even something like a wound on your skin, all of those are going to fall into the category of physical stress. So like I said, three types of stress. So from our perspective, there's different categories. From the perspective of your cells, however, there's only one stress. So your body can't tell the difference between those three types of stress that I've just talked about. Your body has one mechanism for managing stress. Now, what we want to do is we want to make sure we have a healthy balance. So if we have a lot of emotional, physical, and then also chemical stress, that's a lot for the body to handle. Now here's what happens when we are exposed to stress. So let's imagine a basic scenario. Let's say you're driving and somebody cuts you off in traffic, right? So in that moment, you may have a reaction. You may get worked up, you may get angry, and that reaction can last a few seconds to a few minutes or even more. Now this is what happens. So the first thing that happens is that we have a stress response system in the body, and that is called the Hpa axis. So that is the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. So the hypothalamus and the pituitary reside in the brain, and then we have the adrenals that sit on top of the kidneys. And there is constant communication in that pathway so that the body can react to and adapt to stress. So when we, for example, are in that scenario where somebody cuts us off in traffic, what's going to happen is that that is going to trigger the inflammatory response. So the inflammatory response is how the body reacts to stress. And your adrenals, are going to release cortisol, because cortisol is nature's best and most powerful anti-inflammatory or anti-stress hormone. So the body releases a certain amount of cortisol to start fighting off whatever that stressor is. So that's the first thing. Now, once there's elevated cortisol, the body then now has to balance a few other things out. So one thing that the body does is that whenever adrenal function goes up, thyroid function goes down. Okay, those two have a seesaw relationship with each other, and they're doing that all day. So in that moment, the adrenals are going to work hard, pump out more cortisol. All things related to thyroid function are going to get downregulated. Now, this is important because the thyroid does a whole lot for our metabolism. And when we talk about metabolism, it's not just losing weight. We're talking about building new bone and getting rid of old bone. We're talking about your hair growth. We're talking about your heart rate. Just a lot of critical processes are all managed by the thyroid. So temporarily, things get dialed down. Not turned off, but dialed down. On the other hand, what we also have is an increase in blood sugar. So when there is stress, that is seen as an emergency. And in an emergency, we need more energy. In order to get energy, your body needs glucose. That is its preferred form of energy. So what happens is that when we have stress, the liver has to pump out more glucose into the blood to help the body do what it needs to do. Now, this is again all fine in a short-term situation, because the idea is that that stressor should go away and then things will balance themselves out. So in that short term, all of that is fine. But this is what can happen now if we go long term. So if we have chronically elevated levels of stress and cortisol, then what happens now is that things like the thyroid are permanently working sort of at a lower level, less optimal level basically. And then we also have that elevated blood glucose that I mentioned before. What that's going to do is that can also now lead to insulin resistance. And then once there is insulin resistance, that can also trigger your ovaries to start making less estrogen and to make more testosterone. So that, of course, is going to throw off the natural balance of estrogen to progesterone right there. That's going to throw off everything related to your natural female cycle. So what I've given you here is just a very short, very simplified version of all the different things that the body does under stress. So like I said, short-term stress, not a problem. But chronic stress that goes on for months or years or decades will inevitably lead to a lot of hormonal imbalances, because our hormones are just there to react to life. That's pretty much what they do. They're doing a dance. They're not fixed. So when we talk about balancing our hormones, it doesn't mean that they sit at a specific level all the time. It means that they have the ability to respond and then to adapt. And if we lose that ability to flip on and off as it needs to, then we get into a state of imbalance, because naturally they know how to do this. So what we want to do now is support that stress response system, because that stress response system is so critical to a lot of processes in the body. And this is where adaptogens come in. So adaptogens, what they do is they work on that Hpa axis. So they help the body respond to stress, but in a better way, in the sense that they will help the body to better regulate cortisol production. So we're not going into excess cortisol levels. And what that's going to do on the one hand is it's going to help the adrenal. So if you maybe are in a state of adrenal fatigue, by taking adaptogenic herbs, you can start to improve the workload on your adrenals. So once those adrenals are in a better condition, your thyroid can start functioning better, your reproductive organs can start to function better, your insulin levels and your blood sugar levels can balance themselves out and regulate. So the body again knows what to do, but what we need is these herbs like adaptogens that can come in and just provide that extra boost, that extra support to the Hpa axis, to your stress response system, so that you're not constantly in overdrive. Now, across the board, all adaptogenic herbs work on your stress response system. So they all help no matter which one you use. But at a general level, they also can provide some other benefits. So for example, adaptogens can help you to regulate your blood sugar levels. They can help with supporting the liver and its detoxification work that it has to do. They can help to stabilize your mood. They can improve sleep. They boost the immune system as well. They can help boost stamina and increase energy. They also help with fertility. So there's a lot of different benefits that come with taking adaptogens, other than the fact that they help with managing your stress response. Okay, so we will dive more into the specific herbs in the next video, and we'll talk more about the benefits of each of those herbs and how you can incorporate them into your diet, whether you want to use them as food or supplements or as both. Okay, so I hope that this video was helpful, and I have a few more articles around adaptogens on the blog, so I will make sure to link to those videos below, link to those blog posts below this video, because there's a lot more detail in there, and you can also basically get a sneak preview of some of the herbs that I will be talking about in the next video. So I've got some posts around using adaptogens for overall hormone balance, of course, plus weight loss, adaptogens for PCOS and for acne. So all of those I will add below. Now, if you found this information helpful, go ahead and share this video with any other women that you know that you think would benefit from this video. Give it a thumbs up, and if this is your first time watching my content and you liked it and you want more like it, then go ahead and subscribe so you can get notified when I add another video. In the meantime, thanks again for watching and have a lovely day. I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.